Hello, this is Jer. In the last episode, I put in 2 steam turbines, so I'm producing a lot of power now. There's a temporary machine, get rid of that. So I'm on the lab asteroid, one that's been tilted. And what is my goal for this episode? I'm starting off with heat management. Specifically, I want to deal with the heat from this. I've got enough power to run my metal refinery, but I'm essentially taking liquid and dumping it, as you can see here, into this zone. And that's starting to heat up this liquid. Currently decent temperature, but I can't run that forever. So I'm going to start off by improving this situation. So this is the area I chose to take care of the heat from the metal refinery. I have a steam area here to take on that heat, steam turbine. Converted to power, and the actual metal refinery will be over here. The dupes just need to dig out this area first. So the last touches are just being installed on the system that's going to take the heat from the metal refinery and transfer it to the steam turbine. Just going to bring in some petroleum to load in here. Just about to start the vacuum creation process. So I'm going to connect this wire. Get this pump in here that's going to create a vacuum in this whole zone. In the meantime, I had the dupes work on this heavy watt wire, bringing that underneath the base towards this area over here. And then I've got this pipe that goes all the way to where petroleum is created, because I want to get this petroleum sent inside this liquid reservoir. So now we have vacuum in this area. Get rid of this and I'll close this door. So over here is actually going to maintain a vacuum, but we'll have steam over here once we drop liquid and heat this area up. Petroleum is now making its way in. Going to try to get about 2 or 3 tons of that in there. So now I have enough petroleum here. Initially, the petroleum is loading in as coolant into the metal refinery. I've got liquid dropping on top of this. Just want to add a very little bit, not enough to overflow it. I think that's going to be enough, so I'll pause it and I'll cut this pipe right here. Now I'm going to start directing water to go into the actual area below. Actually work. Let's see. It's a little bit. Oh, I see. It's confused because I need to do a temporary cut right here, right? Yeah, there we go. So yeah, liquid now is going into here. I can actually create some metal if I want at this point over here. That's gonna start to heat up the little bit of liquid that's here. The petroleum is going to go in an infinite loop while it's not loading. So once the petroleum gets really hot, it'll transfer the heat inside this zone. So let's just create, I don't know, a dozen pieces of gold, dozen pieces of iron. We've got the power for it because in the last episode I put in several steam turbines. And now we're able to deal with the heat. Create some of that. Create some steel. Give this thing a real test. Alright, put my kitchen into operation and I realized we've got an infinite loop going around with this sweeper, continually bringing stuff in and out. I think I've got an idea, so I'll make a little bit of a change here. So now I have a cooling line set up. So it's going from the overall base cooling system. It's going to make a pass through the steam turbine area. And it's going to go into this and check to see if it needs cooling. So if it's getting a little bit warm, it's going to direct any water or polluted water into this guy to do some cooling. And it'll keep going on until this thing determines its appropriate temperature for the base or not. And then it'll go out and just visit the rest of the base for general cooling. So now I'm not completely dependent on natural cooling, though I will probably set the preference to be cooling over here first. And I can do that easily by making the temperature requirement here to be a little bit higher than the temperature requirement for cooling here. So it'll use natural cooling first. But I'm just doing a little bit of a test to see my aqua tuner run for a little bit. So watching one of the dupes pick up a frost burger and chow down on their new delicious meal. We'll see what they think of it. Let us know, runner, when you're done. Anytime now, really. So this has a special effect on the dupes. It's obviously high quality, so that's good. It produces a lot of calories when you produce that. But it has soul food, and that has a plus and a minus to it. The plus side of things is it's a 15% reduction in stress. So no one should be stressed. There is a disadvantage in the fact that's the fact that it has a -2 to athletics. At this point in the game, the dupes have gained a lot of skills, including running, so I'm not too concerned about that. But the other benefit to Frostburgers is you don't need as much, because you need to, well, you do need to set up a whole production chain of stuff. But you create Frostburgers here, you barbecue meat, then you go over here and you take Frostburgers, and you take meat, or barbecue meat and lettuce, and combine all that, and it actually has a total amount of calories that are higher than what you've given it. So that means essentially less farming and less critter ranching for each individual dupe. So I should start to see my calories surge quite a bit, because first of all, I'm making Frostburgers, and that's going to up the amount of calories, because I've got a huge area for producing meat and sleet wheat and lettuce, but also because I've got this system here to store it forever. So Frostburgers is currently sitting here. It's in a sterile environment in a deep freeze, and it'll last there until someone chooses to eat it. So now I got this going, let's head over to this section, because I'm carving out a spot for the dupes to be able to produce plastic and deal with the heat from that and turn that into more power from a steam turbine. This one's not as important as the metal refinery, but it's still nice. So now I've got steam after creating several pieces of steel and other metals. Not hot enough for the steam turbine to run. Let's just check the temperature gauge here, just to make sure we don't have any redness around here so that it escapes. So we still have a vacuum around here, so that's good. I want to do that because I don't have insulation on this power tile, but everywhere else I've got ceramic insulation going around. But so this is looking good. Be able to keep running my metal refinery, not worry about heat escaping, and eventually I'll even be getting some power back. So the polymer press actually started running. Didn't really intend that to be the case. So what I'm going to do, I love this tool, don't have to involve the dupe, so I'm going to cut this here. Making this out of heavy watt conductive line just for future proofing, but in reality I just have this conductive line leading to it. But this is going to allow me to upgrade this in the future without having to dig in here later on. So I've got this guy turned off. What I want to have happen is create a vacuum here. So actually, I just realized I'm missing a piece to this. I need to have a switch. Put that in right now. And that's going to open that door. And then, we need to have... Do I need to worry about water? Because water's going to build up inside here. No, that's fine, because I can take... This guy will take it out. No, we're good. In fact, that's kind of cool because I don't have to supply water initially. But anyway, we need to get this pump on. I'm not sure what I'm missing. It has power, right? Pump has power, and the pump has less. I think I know. I think I just need to cut this. No. No, it's okay. Did not realize. I will have to get the tubes to rewire this. So we're now starting the process of creating a vacuum inside this area. That's just pumping the polluted oxygen that's in there out. So that this will just be steam in the future, and this area will be maintained as just a vacuum. Just dumping some polluted water on top of this guy here. So I want to have a cooling line going around. This is actually going to be the cooling line. Keep this guy cool. Now this isn't going to be needed to be cooled off nearly as much as either this guy or the steam turbines that I have here, and that's simply because this doesn't generate nearly as much heat, but I do want some sort of cooling. So a little bit of liquid, then I'm going to have this liquid line going around in an infinite loop just to distribute it. Just a single radiant pipe. I'm going to see if that's going to be enough to keep it happy and running. So I've got my liquid on top of this. Just about to form this line here. But I've got a vacuum inside of here now, so I want to close this. In fact, I can even get rid of it because not having anything is also going to be a false line. So I've got a vacuum down here, a vacuum here with some water. Because I have some water, I can actually just turn the system on now. I'll do that. Let's bring in sleeve. I had a connection that I want to make right here, and it is now active. So this guy is receiving, well, this is the, oh, let's actually not have that go there instead. We will bring that out. But yeah, so petroleum is going inside here, and that's coming from the refinery. And polluted oxygen, or no, carbon dioxide is on its way out. But I also have this line here, which is picking up plastic. Now this is going through this line here, just to essentially cool it off, because that plastic will be pretty warm. And when I have it land here, I want it to be able to cool off, so that's the idea of this. I might have to, in time, put in a cooling line for this granite, because that might slowly heat up, but I'll watch that over time. Don't need this pump that was just there to load this initial cooling line. So the polymer press is working, and I'm managing the temperature from that. And this is also working, but then I had to think to myself, what am I doing next? Now that I'm managing the temperature from some of my industrial equipment, I thought, okay, I'll probably want to optimize the base a little bit. Probably want to put in some tubing, some plastic ladders, and that type of thing. And then we want to do a little bit of decorating. Might as well put in some recreation room equipment. I mean, we have the power for it because I got 2 steam turbines running. And then after that, I want to go out in space. And talking about efficiencies, we might as well poke out in space up in here. Well, okay, there's actually meteorites. This was my concern. Is I want to generate a lot of steel to potentially protect myself from that. So one thing I'm going to do is look for the bunker tiles. They are located, oh, there it is right there, bunker door, and this steel door. So that's great, and I just need a lot more steel. And then I thought, I really should have had more than 1 steam turbine under this, because it takes a bit to cool things down, especially if I'm going to be running this quite a bit. I really wish I had to put that there. And there was a perfect opportunity too, because look, there's 5 pieces of bisylite. Well, I think I have a plan to make that happen without interrupting things too much. So putting some ammo suits, I'll get the dupes to build that, and we'll get started with this change before we end this episode. So getting the metal refinery to run with the idea of taking water, and instead of putting it back in, having it sent into this area, liquid reservoir, for temporary holding. I want to stay close to make sure that the pressure doesn't get to be too low, and essentially up the temperature such that these guys are going to break. But my goal is I want to get into this area, probably create a vacuum, get inside there, but when I break inside the steam area, it'd be better if the intensity of the steam was, or density of the steam was a lot less. So that's what I'm doing right now. So now I've got my liquid airlock here, a little vacuum spot. We can start the process of digging in towards this. Now this pressure has been dropping, but I'm going to wait for it to drop a little bit more before we actually get in there. So this is where the steam turbine is going to be built, so might as well dig out this area in the meantime. So now that the metal refinery's been running long enough, it's brought the temperature up to a point where I don't need to run the metal refinery anymore. I'll just let this continue to decrease in pressure until I can get inside there. So maybe I'll have to give the dupes some other tasks to do while I wait for that. So one change I made, it used to be the dupes had to go from here down all the way here and up again to get to the teleportation equipment, but I blocked off access so they can't get through this way anymore. Instead, they'll be able to get right from the center of the base straight across and then down. Just putting in a fire pole to make it a little bit quicker. So this is just a little bit of optimization to reach the teleportation equipment. Now I thought about bringing the conveyor rail up, but it looks like there really isn't that much there. It's just a little bit of enriched uranium that's going to be dropped in the future. If there was a lot of stuff I'd expected in the future, I'd probably put a conveyor rail and head up here, but I don't think that's going to be necessary at this point in time. Let's see what... Oh, we're out of petroleum. Oh, I disabled this. I guess that explains why. So the second steam turbine is in place. Cooling is going around it now. Of course, it's not driving any power because, well, it doesn't have steam underneath it. But this area is starting to get very low pressure. I'll be able to get my dupes into this zone very, very soon. Actually, don't have to destroy that one. Just going to destroy this one first. And then when I get up there, just going to take out all these tiles, seal this back up, and we'll be good. This tile's been taken out. Oh, no. Let's not run that. You know what? I will just temporarily cut this power because we don't want that to run. But yeah, steam is now in this zone. That's going to have a slight warming effect, but not too bad because the pressure is low. Make it a high priority to dig this out for one of my dupes. Final pieces of this being installed. Decided to put a radiant pipe through this so the petroleum's going to go up, down, round like this in a crazy sort of loop all around. Of course, that won't be Hatch, get out of there. Get out of there. Somebody seal that off before that hatch goes inside that zone. They could die in there and rot and create some polluted oxygen. That might mess the whole thing up. We want to make sure there's nothing but either vacuum, steam, or water in this zone before it gets sealed up. So I've got this area sealed back off again. So the water that I was storing here, pretty warm water, is making its way back into here. Not going to turn the metal refinery on until all this is in. See, these machines are actually competing because it's continuing to cool, but that will eventually cool down and all the water will get in there. And then the nice thing is I'll be able to use the metal refinery and I'll have 2 steam turbines to be able to cool that. So that'll just mean that I'll be able to continue to run this for a longer period of time without having to have a cooldown. Because I've got a lot of steel that'll need to be made, I'm sure. One idle dupe. Oh yeah, that's just you who I want to send down a rover. Just before I end this episode, look at how many rovers are in shutdown at this exact location. Oh, that's set to priority 5. I think what's happening is whenever a rover puts something, I noticed the same thing. So there's 2 locations rovers tend to die. Here's one, definitely, obviously. Another one is down here. Yep, and here's a few rovers. And these are high priority tasks, because this is where I'm putting my slime. And I was having that a high priority to put clay. But it seems whenever they drop something in, if they're in a task to do something, they tend to finish that task. This is my assumption anyways. But the moment they let go of that material and get it to where it's supposed to be, if they're out of power, they just stop. That's my feeling. Anyways, I will recycle these rovers back to some iron. Gonna finish on here for this today. I've got a place to treat the heat from the metal refinery, actually turning it back into power, so this doesn't actually consume as much power when you factor that in. But primarily it's the heat that I am concerned about. Just don't have that leaking out into the base. Let's just do a check. Didn't really have too much heat when I went in here, when that was in low pressure. A little bit of heat though from this area, but I can live with that. Over here, petroleum, or plastic rather, is being produced. It's starting to get pretty warm in here, steamy, not enough to make the steam turbine run, but again, that's preventing this guy from making my actual base get hot. And I used abyssalite as much as possible, just so I could avoid use of ceramic where possible. And I've got a ladder down here. It's just a little bit more convenient now for my dupes to get to the teleportation equipment at some point when they need to pick up some stuff. And I think that's pretty much it. I think from this point on, I can do a little bit of decorating around the base and do some optimization. Probably largely the tubes, so I can get dupes flying around in those things. Thank you for watching. Thanks anyone for liking and subscribing, and hopefully I will see you in a future video soon where I'll continue exploring and building out this very strange asteroid. Till then.